Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the In the 11 podcast. I'm Brendan Griffiths, and this is the show where we bring on those from the footballing world to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. This week we have a tremendously talented player stepping into the 11, and he has a journey that is super unique. So I can't wait to share it with you all this week. I hope that you guys can gain a lot of value from his story and really gain some insight into his mentality and his mindset, because I think it's a really good way to approach the game and to look at the game of football. Sergiu Anton is in the 11 this week, and we have a great chat discussing his most recent contract signing in Romania and just breaking down his career from kind of start to finish, as well as talking about his technical training business as well as a one-to-one trainer. So thank you so much for those of you who are listening, and here is Serge. All right, Serge is here in the 11 this week. Was able to sneak away from the team for a little bit, from a lengthy team dinner, it sounds like, to chat for a little bit here. I very much appreciate it. I know that you're busy with preseason, a lot of stuff that's going on right now, and I know it's getting late over there in Romania right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to step in and tell us a little bit about your story.
No, thank you, Brandon, for having me on. It's honestly an honor to be invited onto the podcast. Obviously, it's been doing very well. Credit to your work, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate that. I'm really eager to dive into your story because I think you have such a unique career already, and you're only what, 22, 23 years old, and it's like you've definitely seen some things and been some places in your career already that players twice your age wouldn't have experienced. But the really unique thing about what you've done so far is I think you kind of transitioned away from the game for a little while, or playing, and kind of went into the coaching route, and now you're back and you're playing professionally again, which I think is something that's kind of rare. You don't see that too often, but it just goes to show the amount of dedication and sacrifice are that you put in to get back to this place. So kind of how rewarding has it been for you to now be in a team like this again, and doing what you love, and knowing that all that work you put in to get back to chasing this dream, it's kind of gotten you where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not been a linear uh, process up until now, and I did step away from the game for a few years, and started coaching kids, and also some teenagers approaching kind of the college level, a couple of pros here and there, but that went extremely well. I definitely have a real passion for that. I really enjoy that side of the game, and I see myself doing that long term. However, came to a point where I realized, like, there's something inside of me that won't die until I put it to rest. It was eating inside my head. I would have nightmares about it. Just wake up and, like, why didn't I do more? Why didn't I achieve my full potential? And I'm sure most players that reach a certain level, they understand what I'm talking about. So after moving to England, I decided, okay, cool, this is the perfect environment. Obviously, non-league, quite competitive throughout the non-league structure,
Mm-hmm.
especially step one, step two, step three. It's quite competitive. So I said, all right, that's perfect for me to get back into the game and try and see how far I can take it, while still continuing my business and coaching kids and stuff, but in a new location. And then throughout that process, I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of people that changed my perspective on the game, changed who I am as a person, really. And I got a few opportunities to go back into the game full time. So I said, look, like it's really now or never. I'm hitting 24, 25 now, and it really is now or never if I want to do something in this game and see where my playing career can take me. So yeah, I went to Romania and did a trial with a team here in the third league. Did well enough to earn a contract, and then yeah, just stepping stone into the professional game. Obviously, third league is a stepping stone. It's not where I want to end up or the highest level that I want to have played at, but it's always good to be able to train day in day out and kind of master your craft, and be able to earn a living for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know obviously I've said this to you off air, but just once again, congratulations on signing and having that come to fruition, right? Because as you just laid out there, it wasn't easy for you to do, and it took a lot of sacrifice. And as you're going through this kind of phase where you take your business over to London and you are kind of balancing, do I want to go and pursue this again or do I focus on coaching, right? Like, what's kind of the inner dialogue in your head? I heard you mention I haven't felt like I've reached my full potential yet with my playing career. So I'm sure that must have been a motivating factor to let's go try and get a contract again. But talk to me about some of those things that are pushing you to say, hey, let's go play again, and what are some of the things that are pushing you maybe away from the game?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of playing the game, I think a lot of kids they grow up watching high level football, Premier League, Bundesliga, Champions League, and stuff like that, and they envision a certain level of the game where everyone's a millionaire and you're getting sponsorship deals and all that stuff, and especially in North America where we watch MLS, and even MLS is a fantastic standard compared to the global kind of standard, especially in Europe in the lower leagues. Very few leagues and teams even can obtain those sorts of standards. So, having moved to England, basically moved there, still had my eyes on continuing Roca and my business there. Did that, managed to have one client off of Instagram, built that into a few others, grew into 10, 20, whatever,
Mm.
uh, other clients. And then I started to notice, like, you know what, I'm playing over here, I'm doing well. Yeah, the playing style is, quite direct, doesn't really suit me, but I'm enjoying it, and I feel like, I can really do something here. And it ignited what I felt was in me when I was 13, 14, where I was playing every day, weekend hit. You're playing a game, you're so excited, like you're always in the moment. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that feeling of being so present in the moment, and you're not thinking about bills to pay and what am I going to do when I'm 30 and this and that. You're just playing, you're just enjoying yourself. So I finally felt that, and I think that sparked something in me where I was like, you know what, screw it. I might be making way less money, sometimes not enough to be living, but I'll figure it out. I'm fortunate enough to come from a decent background where I can have, a bit of a financial cushion. I had a business in Canada and stuff. So I said, all right, perfect situation where I can go back into it and afford to risk a little bit. And thankfully, it did pay off in terms of stepping into the professional game, which was my first um, check mark off my list,
Yeah.
and yeah, from there we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, so I think it was interesting there. You said kind of when you had that same love and that passion that you had from when you were 13, 14 years old and you were just playing and enjoying it. When you found that again, that was kind of like that key that unlocked it. You're like, okay, I'm going down the right path. If we take a
Yeah.
look back to kind of walk your story back a little bit to that time when you're in Canada, you're at that age where that's kind of what football is for you. You're just playing. Um, as we go through here, obviously, I know there's some time spent in Toronto with the Toronto FC Academy. Do you feel like was it at that point, or maybe kind of when you went over to Portugal, where that started to become not that same fun kid that just wanted to go and play and enjoy the game week in, week out?
Yeah, I think from a very young age, I always knew that I wanted to play professionally. Like when I was coaching kids, for example, I would always tell them that you have to become, you have to be obsessed with it. Like this is all I wanted to do. I would go to school, and we'd have these little assignments, drawing stuff. All I would draw was soccer balls and my idols.
Hmm.
And when I would, wake up in the morning, I was juggling a ball. We had tenants in our basement, and they'd call me at 7 a.m. Hey, Serge, like it's 7 a.m. Stop juggling the ball. Like you're waking us up. And I'd be like, all right, I'm sorry, and I'd just get back to it. Go to school, bring my ball with me, kick the ball against the wall at recess. Try and find some friends to play with. Obviously, it's Canada, so it's not like the number one sport, so it was hard to come by those people. Um, but yeah, from a young age, like I did know that I wanted to do that, but unfortunately, Canada is even further behind the U.S. in terms of developing, kind of the infrastructure for kids to grow into the professional league. I mean, um, Toronto FC was the only professional academy until I was 17, 16, 17. And so I tried out for Toronto FC at like 14. There was about 300 kids there. By that time, I was already like training every day, like had supplemental training, all this stuff. Before supplemental training was a thing, there was
Hmm.
people doing it and stuff. And yeah, tried out. There was like 400 kids at the tryout. They kept cutting kids week by week, week by week. And actually, my dad convinced me to go. I didn't want to go. I remember it was like a Saturday morning or something, or Sunday morning, and I was in bed. My dad goes, "Get up." I was like, "What? Well, why?" It's like we're going to try and tryouts, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like like I'm not
Right.
going. You know what I mean? I'm not going. Like I have no chance. Like leave me alone. You know what I mean?" And he was, I'm thankful to have somebody that saw potential in me and pushed me and supported me a lot. So he drove me to the tryout and went well. Made the first cut, 10th cut, whatever, until they trimmed it down to the final 18 out of the 300, 400, and I was in the 18. Ultimately, I ended up being in the 11 for uh, uh, well over 90% of the season, of the first 2 seasons that I was there. So it was good. It goes to show you that it's not all talent, it's not all hard work. You also need a little bit somebody that's going to push you and that's going to believe in you. Thankfully, I had that person in my dad, but I, I've spoken to many parents that they tell me their stories and sound similar to mine, but maybe their parents didn't push them or didn't support them in their choices, so they had to go down a different route. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was that. And then once I stepped into the to Toronto FC Academy, it was very different. We had training every day during the summer. We had training in the morning, like professionals. We had, you know, our training kits laid out for us, all our travel costs paid for, all that stuff. So that was a big like eye opener to wow, this could be something, for
Mm.
the future. Then at 16, I ended up being released from the academy, and that was like when I say football is my first love, that was my first heartbreak, and
Yeah.
it was something like I've never felt so much pain in my life because it was everything for me. That was everything. There was nothing else in my life but that.
So
And
what happened with that to go from, because obviously you just mentioned you got yourself into the team, you were kind of playing pretty consistently. Did it
yeah,
come, were you expecting that conversation at all? Like, what was kind of the conversation that you were having with the club that led to that happening?
so I think I played very well throughout the season. I did very well throughout the 2 seasons that I was there. There was also a provincial team, so that would be like in the states, like a state team,
Yep.
and the state team was quite good. We beat them, mind you, but they had their eyes on bringing in a lot of the state players into the team. So what happened was in the preseason of U16, we brought in a bunch of the provincial players, and they were very physical players. So this is kind of where my ideology of football stems from, is from my own experience. Is they were fast, they were strong, they're physically developed beyond 16 years old. So there were 20-year-old players in a 16-year-old body. And so obviously me as a winger at the time, I had technical qualities, had good 1v1 skills, things like that. But if you're going to put me up against a guy that looks like Adam Traore at 16,
Yeah.
you might favor him to win you a couple matches. And so, that obviously hit me hard. But thankfully, I got the opportunity through my old club coach. He knew, I was very serious, and I went back to him for a bit, and he connected me with this Brazilian coach that had a lot of connections in Portugal. So we went on. I went on a trip with him, a few other players, and we put together kind of like a showcase team at 16, and we played against Benfica's uh, youth like schools, played against Braga's academy, a couple of other local academies in Lisbon, and I did quite well in a few of the matches. I got invited to the Benfica tryouts and also to the Braga tryouts, and I did decent in the Benfica tryouts. They said, "All right, cool. We're gonna have a look at you. In the meantime, go back to wherever you're gonna play, and we'll call you back in 6 months' time. Check up on how you're doing, and you can join the team for preseason and see how you do." And so in the meantime, I managed to go train in Braga with the team that I did very well against, with two other Canadian boys that they also liked, and we stayed there for 6 months. So at 16, left high school. Was grade 11. Yeah, grade 11. So I had a year and a half left of high school. Went to Portugal and yeah, trained there. Looking back in hindsight, not the best decision. I'm 16 years old. I was on my own, me and two other guys in a foreign country,
Yeah, I was
left
gonna
to.
ask you about that. I was gonna ask you, at that young age, you just had that confidence to just, yeah, I'm gonna move my life across the
I
world
don't know if
to
it's
Europe.
it's not confidence, man. It's stupidity and ignorance. Because obviously, I don't at that age. I'm not looking at all the factors. I don't understand all the factors. My parents support me, but they may not they weren't aware of all the factors either because they didn't really know all the ins and outs of the professional game at the time. But they supported me and they saw that I'm really devoted to that lifestyle. So
So, what are the things that you really wish that you knew, right? You mentioned those factors kind of that you didn't have a full understanding of. Now, obviously, you have much more experience in the game. What are those things you wish you knew before you got on that flight to Portugal and made it serious?
um, well, one, the FIFA rules. Know the FIFA rules in terms of
Yes.
your eligibility to play as a youth player in Europe if you're not from that given country, and people have it misinterpreted as if you're European. It's not that. It's if you're from that given country, because what happens is basically go. If I'm not mistaken, somebody could pop up and correct me, but from my experience, it was, I had a European passport. Obviously, I'm born in Romania, but for them to sign me, they would have to like pay for my accommodation, pay for my school, give me a salary, make sure like my something with my parents is taken care of, various factors. So I went in. They said, "Cool, you can train here, whatever. You have a place to stay, blah blah." Blah. But ultimately, you can't play officially until you're 18. So I was there training, 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 but it's not the same as games. You know. Anyways, that's the number one thing that I would be aware of if you're a young kid looking to go, is be aware of the FIFA rules. Secondly, is don't go by yourself. Go with somebody that has your best interest at heart. I'm not saying that the people that brought me there didn't, but maybe some decisions come with self-interest, whereas your family is always going to look out for you number one. There's no
Yeah.
profit. There's absolutely no other factors, and they will cut it off if there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the number one thing. Really, it's just like know the rules and then don't go by yourself at such a tender age where your brain is not there. For most people, anyways. There's obviously grand chess masters training at 15 years old,
Yeah.
but most footballers aren't that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah,
you can probably speak to this though. I'm sure there's as we look back, there's probably things that you might change or do differently, as we all would when we look at our younger years. But just to kind of put it in perspective for those that are listening, you're now 16, 17 years old, and you have played for a professional academy, been cut by that professional academy, and now you're living on your own in a European country again in a professional academy system in a setup. And the reason that I mentioned being cut from that academy as well is because now already at 16, 17, you kind of understand. All right, this is what the game is. That they're
yeah,
it like you said, it isn't that 13, 14 kind of idea that you had of the game where everybody has fun and it's all roses and everybody gets a trophy at the end of the day. It's cutthroat, it's ruthless. There's people that have agendas. There's people that want to win at all costs, and sometimes that means people are on the losing end of that. But I think it probably, and you can speak to this even more, it probably made you a much tougher, more resilient person at such a young age, the experiences that you had been through. And I'm sure probably progressed you into having more success in doing more things in the game and just growing as a person.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was kind of one of those rude awakenings where it's like somebody grabs a frying pan and slaps you across the face, and you're just like, wow, like this is not what I thought it was. Um, and especially it opens your mind to the to the financial side of the game, where especially in the academies, you know, they're investing somewhere near, like, for example, if you sign your first professional contract, this was the case with me. I'll get into that later. By 18, I had the opportunity to sign my first professional contract in Hungary for Ferencváros, and they required me to go back to every youth team that I had and ask for compensation, like if they wanted compensation from me. Toronto FC, all my even my youth clubs, where I was paying. But regardless, that's the FIFA rules. And some for professional clubs, it's somewhere near like 20,000 euros a year, 25,000 euros a year. You know what I mean? So it's like if you've done 4 years with them, that's 100K. It's not pennies.
Not at
So
all.
if if um if a club has a player, you're joint. This is why I tell players, like, listen, you're going, go early. Go at 11, 12 years old. Go move with your family. That's great. Do that. You have great chances. You move, the later you go, the harder it becomes. Because at 16, 17, now, there's guys that are there from 10 years old. There's guys that are there from 11 years old, from 12 years old. Let's take the 12-year-old, for example. 16, boom, 4 years. Let's say 20 grand a year, in their development. Okay, so that's 80 grand that they've invested into this player. You come in, okay, you're good, you're decent. But why are we going to sign you over the guy that we've invested money into?
Mm.
Not just that, he's one of our own. He could go on and play for a national team, and we can make some money off the transfers. But what do we have in it for us to sign you? You know what I mean? So that's why I always tell players, like, stop thinking that, oh, I'm good enough because I play on the provincial team. I played on, this and that team. No, man, it's not that. You're competing against a world market. So, you have to be ultimately better than millions and millions of people. People don't understand that. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, how much I want to dig a little bit deeper into that kind of idea because I think so many players have that idea of, well, I'm good enough. Why am I not a pro yet? Like I'm good enough to play at the professional level, and that may be true, or to play at the academy level. But how many how many players have you seen maybe that are good enough, but for a thousand other circumstances they don't make it to the professional level? Or, what are some of those reasons? Because obviously, like as you know, as you've experienced, you've been at the professional level. You can play at the professional level. That's proven. But there's been a lot of things, a lot of ups and downs in your career that haven't allowed you to, play at the top level from the age of 16 to now.
Yeah, I think there's a few factors to that. Depending on, so, like, the way I look at it is, you have to look at it holistically. You don't look at a player just as the finished product. You look at, like, where did that player develop, in what environment, what country, what's the culture like, and things like that. And so, when I look at players where they grew up in an environment where there is a system, there is a structure, there is a hierarchy of leagues, promotion, relegation. There's a system of promoting youth, and there's history behind the sport versus North America, where it's new. Um, it's very, very fresh. Not a lot of history there, and it's kind of hard for you to kind of master your craft. So, I'll take it, for example, from the North American side of it. I've seen some players, not to get into like individuals, I've seen to a few different examples where, they've been very talented, like very, very talented on a, world class level at 14, 15. And actually gone out to trials in Fulham and Chelsea, done well, and gotten interest from them. But for whatever reason, I don't know the details of their individual lives, didn't end up going, stayed in Canada. But because there's not a system of development where there's lower leagues where you can, play full time, earn a bit of money, sustain yourself if money is an issue, and continue progressing through the ranks and develop yourself. They kind of fall into the peer pressure of teenage life, maybe adolescent life, whatever it is. They start to party a little bit, give up on their dreams, and bit by bit, and then they fall off the wagon, and they're nobody anymore. Whereas at 15, 16, they were probably up there. They could have been somewhere in the world, in the world market. But then if you look at countries where where they do have a system, I think complacency is a big problem, and attitude is a big problem. So rather than systematic issues like there are in North America, it's a lot of I don't want to do the extra work. I'm already a starter. Oh, I got to call up for the youth national team, so I'm a big shot. And so when you start to get that into your head, you've already lost the battle
Yeah.
because you're no longer fighting with the guy that's playing Premier League. You're fighting with the guy that's in your team or in your age group, and that's the decline because now you're no longer going up. You're just staying stagnant. And I really do believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You're just getting worse, 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 incrementally 1% every day, and then before you know it, you're you're worse than where you were at 16 when you're 21. So yeah, those are the two things that I would say are the main issues on a kind of more surface level. There's obviously deeper levels you can go into it and more factors, but just to kind of sum it up from my experiences, seeing both Canada and Portugal, um, those are the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the system in Europe, it kind of sets the player up to have a little bit more of a chance, and I mean it in the sense of, I obviously understand how difficult it is for any player to make it to the professional level, but for example, if you play in Germany still at 19, 20, 21 years of age, you can be playing 4th, 5th division, training 3, 4 times a week, playing games on the weekends, and you can have a full-time job and during the day and still support yourself and still kind of be chasing the dream in a serious way, and you may get an opportunity. If you play 4th division, 5th division in a country like Germany, or obviously you experience it in a country like England, you can use that on a CV to then go maybe to a smaller market if that's what you want to try and do. But
Mhm.
in North America, there's not really that structure, like you said, that system. Once you get past a certain age where academies aren't really an option anymore, there's not consistent full-time football for people to be played that's at a level that's respected. So it kind of is like forces you to choose right then, do you want to keep playing at a high level, or do you want to move on with your life and do something else? I have
Yes.
an interesting question for you about, because I've heard you mention kind of the difference between academies where a lot of things are given to you, a lot of money is invested into you as a player, and obviously that pays dividends for many players. But I'd be curious to ask you, if we take maybe the coaching side of it out, obviously the top academies are going to have the best coaches. What would you kind of choose as your path? Would you choose the path where you go into the academy and everything is handed to you and it's a little bit easier maybe in that sense, or would you kind of choose the more grinded out at lower levels, grinded out at lower leagues, because that shows you a little bit more of the game? What would you kind of say to that question?
I think there's benefits to both. For example, in the lower leagues, you understand, like I was telling you off camera, kind of the social dynamics of the professional game. You know, this guy has X amount of appearances in, the first league or in the Premier League or whatever it is. So, he's the hot shot. He's going to call the shots. So he's not really going to work as hard, and he might be a bit, have a bad attitude, and you got to run for him. You got to make tackles. The minute you make a mistake, though, yeah, good luck. Everything's,
Yeah.
all shots are fired at you. You know what I mean? Even though you've done so much work, and this guy's probably lost 10 balls. So these aspects are a big part of, lower league football, and then kind of seeing the ugly side of the game, and then learning how to play ugly as well. Like, play ugly as in, sometimes it's very direct. Not everyone has that footballing education, or um, and sometimes it's not even that. You know what I mean? Like, some people know how to play football, but the thing is, it's about results, and to build a football style, like, playing out of the back, high pressing, whatever it is. It takes a consistent amount of training for a good preseason, and really persuading your team to play that way, especially when we talked about um, managing characters in the team. Some people may not want to be working hard, and so in that sort of playing style, one, two missing links, it completely makes the domino fall. So yeah, seeing that aspect of it kind of matures you and makes you understand the game in a more holistic sense. But in terms of progressing your career and making it to the highest level possible, I think the academy route is still the best the best way to do that. Just because in the academy route, you're playing usually low risk football in terms of, like, if you make a mistake, it's fine. There's not a lot of chips on the table. You lose 3 points, it's fine. It's more about development. You can afford to make mistakes. So through that, you're gonna take more risks. You're gonna gain more experience. You're gonna master your craft and learn how to play the game um, the right way, and really develop yourself. And then the other aspect of that is the club has an interest in pushing you on to the first team and
Yeah.
into the reserve team. Why? Because they're gonna make tons of money off of you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
see a
might
price
have
tag on you.
invested. Yeah, you know what, you're Jeff from San Francisco, but we've invested 100K in you. We've invested 200K in you, and as a matter of fact, we also paid your family's mortgage. So you know what? I think we're gonna sell you for 3 mil in a few years. So we have a very invested interest in pushing you onto the first team, and so things work that way. And I think the harder you can grind it out in those youth teams and push yourself through the age groups, work hard, prove yourself, learn, absorb. The stacks are in your favor, and now you might get an appearance in the reserve team. You
Mm.
might get an appearance on the first team. Now your transfer marks gone from here to here. These are all aspects of the game, and all it takes is a few appearances, and now you're in the system, and it's quite hard to break that kind of level. It takes a lot to drop it, whereas it takes a lot more to go from lower league footballer all the way up to, like, a high level, Premier League, Champions League player. It takes ridiculous amounts of work, and also things to work in your way, because there's many factors.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta have a little bit of luck as well. Something I try
Yeah.
and it's it's a hard thing to say to players, but there's an element of luck about it. Meeting the right person at the right time, performing well in front of the right people. That all kind of plays a factor. As you mentioned before, we were speaking a little bit off camera. You've been in a number of different places. In Toronto, Portugal. I know you had some trials in Belgium as well. You mentioned that Hungarian team was kind of that first professional contract offer, but now being in Romania, how do you manage the personal side of the game? How do you come into a team and try and integrate and become part of the team when you have big egos, when you have the guy who used to play Premier League and scored 50 goals. He's a club legend, and he looks at you and says, "Why are you trying to take my spot?"
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, it's never as easy. If things were so blunt like that, like, oh, why are you trying to take my spot? It'd be quite easy because you can pick out who's who. But
Mm,
there's kind of an accommodation period of, you're kind of quiet. You come in, you're a new guy. You do your thing, whatever, and then you start to suss out who's who along the way through body language. You see how people interact with each other, and you kind of understand the hierarchy of the club and the team, and it's a big part. And mind you, it shouldn't play so much of a part in your head because ultimately what you're there to do is what you can do. But we're humans, and we've developed as humans in hierarchical kind of organizations, so it's natural for you to notice these things. And as a young player, especially I look at my team and a lot of the younger players, it clouds their judgment. But how you can manage that is not easy. You kind of have to just you know swallow a little bit of bullshit, and work hard, do well when you're given the opportunity. Do well, do be prepared, do your extras. If you train well, you recover well. You're studying, you're a student of the game. There's really no reason why you shouldn't do well. And then from there, things start to progress. And don't don't put too much, don't take too much to heart. I think that in North America, we grow up very soft, and it's part of the kind of culture. Um, there's benefits to it, but a big downside of it is that people become soft,
mm,
and you're not able to kind of take things on the chin, take some swear words at you, back and forth on the pitch, BS happening in behind the scenes. You think everything's like rosy, but it's not. And that's a big downfall of kind of the education system, and sheltering people, um, from from the reality of the world, really, because it's not just about football; it's about the
yeah,
world too. Um, you're very sheltered in North America. You have no clue what the hell's going on. Everyone has a 9 to 5. Everyone has a big house. When you come to like a lot of other countries where there are talented footballers, these guys come from nothing, man. These guys come from nothing. They come from electricity being cut out at a certain time and stuff. And so you can't expect these people to be so primed and proper, to be kind of uh, patting your back and
yeah,
like nice and whatever. You'll get a few of those, but you also get the other ones where they're not like that. So you just have to kind of understand that, manage it, and understand the bigger picture is the most important thing. This is a stepping stone. The higher up you go, the more it'll be in your favor if you've done the work and if you kind of earned your way there.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. It was funny that you mentioned that kind of environment where you might get into a situation where you've got guys screaming at you. I wanted to ask you if there's any situation that stick out to you of maybe early on when you joined a club or when you're on a trial or anything where you remember, a specific story of that time where you're trying to get into the team, and maybe somebody's yelling something at you, or some sort of funny experience. Because one that always comes to mind with me, I know I told this a few episodes ago, is I was on trial in Germany, and we were doing this 1v1 drill. So it was like the defenders would knock a long ball across, and then you just go out and defend. And I knocked the first couple, and I did quite well defending, honestly. I was happy. And then the next two that I hit, like, so we were playing, one big goal across, one big goal. So everyone was to the right of the goal. So I go to knock the ball, and it's way too far to the right. It's like going almost into the goal. And the guy goes, he takes the touch, and he's fine, and he attacks. And then the second one, I do the same thing. I play it way too far to the right. He goes to take the touch, but as he's doing it, his foot gets caught in the net, and he falls. And everyone on his team is laughing at him. And he gets up, and I don't think he was one of the ones that could speak English, so he's just screaming shit at me in German. All of his teammates think it's funny, but for me, like, I just arrived here on this trial. I don't even know what this guy's saying to me. I feel like an idiot because I've just made this guy do this, and now he's pissed at me. But it's like those little moments like that where you kind of something like that, even though it sounds funny, it sounds silly, like, you kind of get tested a little bit, like, what are you going to do when somebody is screaming at you, especially when they're screaming at you in another language? Like, are you going to cower then for the rest of the session, or are you going to be like, all right, yep, my bad, like, let's move on and get on with
Yeah.
it? Is there anything kind of that jumps out to you as you think of your many experiences over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most footballers that aren't, Messi or some like one of the best in the world have similar experiences. Everyone makes mistakes, but yeah, one that stands out to me was when I was in Portugal at Benfica, and we were playing like a big rondo, like a huge rondo, the in the semicircle,
Ah,
and
okay.
there's three guys in the middle, yeah, and basically the guy that loses the ball, the guy to the left of him and to the right of him, going into the middle along with the guy that lost the ball. So there's an added component of like pressure and responsibility on the ball. Um, and I remember like I lost the ball once, and then I lost the ball another time, like in a short period of time. And then a couple of the guys were kind of like, again, this is coming from me being too soft probably, but I like took it to heart. Like the one of the guys was like, "Oh, get me away from this guy. This guy's gonna get me in the middle." And like they started shifting around so that like I wouldn't be on to the left or the right of them.
Yeah.
And that shit screwed with my head a lot because like I really started to doubt my abilities. I really did start to doubt my abilities. And I was like, at a tender age too, I was like 17, 18. I was like, this is tough, man. But I had to learn through it. And it wasn't easy. It didn't happen. Like, obviously, that's why probably I had such a non-linear career, is because it did take a long time for me to understand these aspects of it. But yeah, that was one. Another few was like, well, more recently, really going on trial. I'm a grown man at this point. I don't give a crap if somebody yells at me. But just like seeing people, like I said, with different CVs, some people with first league appearances and whatever, and they feel like they can talk down to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a grown man. You know what I mean? Like, bro, like who are you? Like at the end of the day, like we're both humans,
Yeah.
right? If we're talking about, this, that, or the other, I might be better than you. You know what I mean? But because in this hierarchy of things,
Mm.
this is what it is, you think that you can, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to manage those things. And only now that I've developed that maturity, now you can kind of like just put it under the rug and continue on. But it's tough at those ages, man. Like that's why whenever I see talented players at a young age, I don't think anything of it because it's nothing. Talent is nothing, man. Psychology of the game is like way bigger than talent is.
Yeah, yeah. That what you just hit the nail on the head. I think that the psychology of the game and your maturity from a mentality standpoint goes a long way into what kind of career you're going to have and what type of success you're going to have. Because you mentioned there, when you're in Portugal, self doubt is so powerful. Like
Yeah,
if you're a player that you find yourself starting to doubt whether or not you're going to take a good first touch when it comes in, or whether or not you're going to be able to play a good pass, or whether or not you're going to be able to defend one versus one. All of a sudden, like those things start to add up. And I think even for me, I've really kind of just recently realized that probably a lot of the ways that I was even kind of talking to myself within a game wasn't really the right way to do it. I wasn't positive with myself. I wasn't encouraging. Sometimes it'd be like, all
yeah,
right, like don't fuck this up, and that's a
yeah,
terrible way to play. It really is,
yeah.
because then you do it once, and now the next time you're thinking about the mistake from before, when really you just need to constantly be reinforcing yourself and being
The
positive with
next,
yourself on the
yeah,
pitch.
yeah, 100%, man. To be honest, I learned this very late. Um, like the presence of these social media guys, like David Goggins, for example,
Hmm.
Jocko Willink and stuff. Like these guys had a huge impact on my life. Like it was like one of those like light bulb moments, And when I started to kind of dive into that world, um, I I understood the self talk and the power of like your mind and how everything is actually how you perceive it. Nothing is set in stone. Like you could say the sky is blue, I could say it's pink, and it's the same thing on the football pitch. You know, it's very subjective what happens on the field, and it's kind of you can't pay attention to what this guy and that guy says. You have to have your own self definition. You have to be self defined as a person and as a footballer. And so when you approach things from that standpoint, you can start to navigate the game differently. And I like to talk to myself in kind of third person and like almost have like a narrator in my head when I'm playing.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm playing the game, cool, link the play one time, two times, make a few good passes. Okay, good. And I always have this thing where I go, okay, the next one, the next action. So I put that behind me because what used to happen to me was I would have a really good series of actions, and I'm thinking about that. I'm like, oh, nice, yeah, I did
Yeah.
well, and then and then that's when you start screwing up, and you end up having like a 5 out of 10 game when it could have been a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And so yeah, that was really important for me to get past that. And then also on the negative side of things, where you might mess up something, you may mess up a pass, you miss a good shot, maybe a goal is caused because of you, whatever it is. And you just have to tell yourself the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. The next action is the most important action. It's not what you just did, what you're doing now. No, it's the next one. And so whether that's negative or positive, what just happened, it doesn't matter. It's the next one. And so when you look at players you know, like Jordan Henderson or like James Milner or something like that, like they're just constantly 7, 8 out of 10s,
Yeah.
in the matches. And you look at, like, you talk to people, you listen to interviews about them, and they all talk about how their professionalism is up there with Ronaldo. It's up there with top players. The difference being is they're midfielders and right backs, and Ronaldo's scoring the goals. So maybe he gets more headlines. Maybe he has a little bit more talent, whatever it is. But regardless, there's a benefit to having that mentality of just approaching the next action regardless of what the past action was.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know I would fall victim to, I needed that first action to be positive to kind of set me off for the rest of the game in a positive way. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
Yeah,
if I connect the first pass, or 1v1, I'm able to force the attacker to go backwards. Okay, boom, now I'm kind of, that was my starter into the game, and now I can go forward. But it was like, then I would get into a habit where if it wasn't, it was so hard for me to then come back to that. And I
Yeah,
think what you said is perfect. Is like you have to look at it from a more neutral way. Even if the first thing that you do is receive a ball and you play an absolute beauty in behind into the striker and they score, like you have to almost just switch that off immediately and go forward, because if not, you'll just ride that high and then all of a sudden it deteriorates from there.
you have to have amnesia as a footballer. Yeah, I mean, it's just short-term memory loss. Forget about it. Next one. Even think about every footballer that always talks about their last performance in the post-match interview. They always talk, yeah, great match. Happy we did well. We worked hard. We're looking forward to the next match. And that's like staple. You look at like 90% of interviews, they always say that we're looking forward to the next match. So it's something that's a high level mentality, and it that applies to the next match as well as it does to the next action, from the macro level all the way to the micro level. um, but the other thing that I think is really important is to not put so much value on external validation. So when I was a young kid, I always used to, if I did something well, like I was used to getting praise like from somebody. Oh, wow, amazing! Yeah, nice pass, nice goal, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then when you don't hear that, when you're in the professional level, when you're in that kind of more intense environment, you think you're doing something wrong. So you start doubting
Yeah.
what you, even though like you've done well, but because nobody's patting you on the back, like you're doubting yourself. And so just understanding, like, okay, you've done your homework, you know the game, you know what you're supposed to do, you know what's required of you, done the work, all that, checked off all the boxes. Now you're doing it in the game, in the training. Don't worry about what anyone else says. People notice it. Like, don't worry, people notice it. And even if they don't, the aim isn't that. The aim should be become your best self, and do things the right way, because that's how you know they should be done, rather than I need to please this person, or I need to hear that from that person. Mentality switch kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's crazy because I never really thought about it like that. But we've all been in those situations in training where you do something well and somebody's like, yeah, well done. And you get this little kind of endorphin boost. It boosts you for
Yeah.
the next couple of seconds. But as you go up, higher and higher professional levels, maybe you'll have a player or two that will do that if you do something well. But 90% of the guy, like everyone there is now a pro. They've done this for years and years, and they're all at this level. So they're not gonna, they're not gonna cheer you on and pat you on the back. If anything, if you do something amazing, they probably won't say anything. But then if you make a mistake, then they're gonna let you know about it. So it kind of goes from this shift of like if you do something really well, you'll have all this positive reinforcement, to if you do something well, it will be silent. So that's how you know you've done well, or you've done something poorly and everyone's letting you know about it, and it's like this harsh feedback that's coming back on you. So if you can't be the one inside your head that's saying, like you said, take away the external validation. It all has to be internal, right? When you've done something well, you have to let yourself know that was well done and then move forward from there, because it's not going to come from elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. Like, it's you're gonna hear more negative than you are positive. Also, I really like this cliche thing that I've been hearing. I think Zlatan might have said it. It's like, when I score fantastic goals, or when I score a goal, I don't expect validation, because when a mailman delivers the mail, he doesn't expect any validation. He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
And so if you kind of take that in, you're like, cool. I'm a winger, or I'm a midfielder. and I just got an assist. Or I made a nice ball, through ball or whatever. I connected all the passes that I was supposed to. Um, yeah, that's your job. So nice. Like that's what you're supposed to do. If you weren't doing that, then you'd be on the bench. So like what's the big deal? So when you take it that way, it's that's what you do, and that kind of gives you a bit of confidence as well because then you just take it as yeah, that's what I do, and whether that's great or good or whatever it is, that's my job, And then if you do not so good, you just look to tweak things, and that's how you kind of, I think, approach a more consistent performance level. But obviously, I'm talking probably out of my ass because I haven't reached that level, but I try to ingrain that mentality, and it's really been over the past year where I've met some people in England, especially where they've really rubbed off on me on that aspect, and like besides the football side, it's just that,
Yeah.
and if anything, man, like that is more valuable than anything you can teach a kid in terms of how to strike a ball or how to control it is mindset. If you have the mindset, man, you'll go far.
Yeah. Yeah, the visualization. I mean, there's countless studies of how positively it can impact performance. Seeing yourself doing something right or doing an action successfully, it's almost as valuable as if you train it 1,000 times.
Mm.
But you mentioned that you kind of are fostering this mentality, and part of that is getting the right people around you, the right people that are influencing you. And I know we've been going for a while, so maybe we can kind of wrap up here. But as you've created this mentality and you continue to work on it each day, and you have the right people around you, and now you're in a situation where you can kind of push again and go after this dream full force. Well, it's almost like you're getting a second chance at it, right? So what does this chance mean to you, and what do you want to get out of it? Like, what are you looking to do with the game this second time around? Where do you see yourself, and what are the goals that you're looking to achieve?
Yeah, like you said, it is a second chance. Um, I think, yeah, I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do that. But yeah, in terms of what I want to achieve in this second chance at playing professionally and doing what I can is just seeing who I can be. I mean, who can I be as a footballer, as a young man? Um, see what my full potential is given my trajectory. Obviously, might have been more, might have been different. But whatever it is from now on, going forward, and then play for as long as I can. If I can play till I'm 36, 37, 40, that's amazing. And that would give me, right now at 25, quite a lengthy career, even having started quite late and with a weird trajectory. So yeah, I think that's my goal, and I don't try and think about the goals too much just because it's kind of out of your control, like in terms of what contract you sign and what league you reach and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like you just kind of have to focus on the micro aspects of your daily habits, your daily routines, and reverse engineer like the end goal of reaching whatever level back to your daily kind of life. So yeah, that's my goal right now, and becoming more disciplined. Things that I've struggled with in the past massively. Like people that meet me now, I'm a very different person than I was when I was 19, 18, 19, and for various reasons. But yeah, that's my goal, man.
Love it, man. Love it. Again, I appreciate you coming on, and for those listening, I got the pleasure to train Serge when he was actually in my area before he got to go overseas. So, I can attest to super quality player, but, beyond that, professional, the way that you approach the game, respectful, humble, great guy. And like I've said to you before, I can't be more happy for you that you've been able to do this and take this second chance and run with it. So I'm looking forward to following everything that you do and wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much, Brendan. It's been a pleasure to be on your podcast. Um, thank you for the kind words as well. Thank you for helping me in the preseason, preparing for this season that I'm going on, and I look forward to seeing your journey as well in your podcast and in coaching. Obviously, there's many things beyond playing that are just as, if not more, important. And thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate it. That was the show this week. Thank you so much again to Serge for taking some time away from team activities to speak to the podcast and to share some insight with you guys. Thank you to him. Thank you to all of you who are listening out there. We greatly appreciate everything that the podcast is doing in terms of growth, and that's all thanks to you guys. That's all thanks to the listeners out there who allow this community and this brand to keep growing. So continue to do what you've been doing, and I will talk to you on the next one. Peace.